offensive player comps. We did our quarterback player comps at the Super Bowl, and I think he spent a good time of that segment yelling at me about my comps. I even had a buddy in the scouting community text me and make fun of my Drew Brees, Bryce Young comp, so I'll not be making that
So I
anymore.
wasn't the only one?
You were not the only one. Pete Prisco hated your Steph Curry, Bryce Young comp, but we'll get back to that when we have Pete on the show. So let's talk offensive players. Let's start with wide receiver, and these two names have already come up this show. Let's start with Jackson Smith and Jigba. What do you
got? Mine is Adam Thielen. I don't know how big Smith and Jigba is, but I think he's going to be around 6 foot, around 200 pounds. Adam's roughly the same size. Both of them are excellent route runners, catch the ball extremely well. If they're going to get open down the field, they're going to probably have to use their route running ability. By that, I mean maybe putting a double move on a corner in order to get him to bite, to get separation down the field. Extremely tough when they're coming across the middle and they hang on to the ball when they know they're going to get whacked. So, but that's why I had the comparison between those two.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Mine is similar in terms of size, 6 feet 201 at his combine. Ran a 4.51, and you talked about the speed for Jackson Smith and Jigba. That'll be something that's interesting to see. I had Robert Woods out of USC, and again, he's a tough player. He's not a number one. I don't know if Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be a number one at the next level. And I think Robert Woods has exceeded expectations after perhaps initially not. I think he's gotten better. He's quietly a really good receiver. I don't know if Jackson Smith and Jigba is ever going to be Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave, and they've only played 1 year, but they've been really good for their respective teams. But I'm going with Robert Woods. You seem to hate that. List in the other one.
I'll agree with you on that. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, you are sick. All right. Jordan Addison. He's one of your favorites. You talk about me liking little guys. Between Bryce Young and Jordan Addison, you're becoming a little Ryan Wilson in your evaluations. What do you got for Jordan Addison?
Well, he's a little taller than 5'7" on all the guys that you like that are 5'7" or lower.
It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, he's 5. I think he's going to measure 5'10" or 5'11", which is tall enough, but very thin. I think he has excellent speed, at least on the tapes that I've watched. I'm anxious to see what he runs, but that's why I kind of compared him to a Devontae Smith. He didn't have the same overall production this year that Devontae had when he came out of Alabama, but I saw a linear, thin receiver with excellent speed, and he has some elusiveness after the catch, so that's why I came up with that comparison.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, even though he had a great year with Caleb Williams the year before with Kenny Pickett, he was even somehow better and more explosive. I like your comp better than mine. This young man that I'm about to name measured 5'9.5", 180 at the combine, which is tiny. He plays bigger than that, although he struggled with drops at times. Jalen Waddle, what are you laughing at? So I went with Jalen
They're
Waddle.
Two different body types.
They are. That's why I like George a little better, because Jalen Waddle's not a linear player. When you talk about Devonta Smith, although Devonta does have wiggle, it just doesn't show up as often. Jalen's used more on these crossing routes. But I think that Jordan Addison can have success at all three levels in terms of route running. He plays much bigger than he is. He runs through arm tackles. Those are things that Jalen doesn't necessarily do. But I start with the size and weight, and then I go from there. And, again, listen, you got a 30-year head start on me in terms of evaluating guys. So give me the benefit of the doubt there.
Just guessing like everybody else.
Just guessing like everyone else. Jamir Gibbs, we both like Jamir Gibbs a lot. You saw him a lot at Alabama in the fall. Who do you got?
Yeah, I went with Christian McCaffrey, who Pete's been just beating me up on that comparison.
So let me be clear, because I need to do this more often. Jamir Gibbs, running back out of Alabama, transferred from Georgia Tech, had a good season in the fall. You have him compared to Christian McCaffrey.
And the reason I came with Christian McCaffrey, they're similar in size. I think they both have very good speed. But what made Christian very unique, and I think what makes Jamir Gibbs unique, is they both are excellent receivers out of the backfield. And how, San Francisco used McCaffrey when they put him in the slot and try to create mismatches in one-on-one situations, whether it was a safety or a linebacker over top of him. I think Jamir Gibbs can play a similar type role, that you don't have to just have him in the backfield. You can use him, because he's such an explosive athlete, around multiple spots on the offensive line to try to create some mismatches. I mean, the Tennessee game, the one catch that really stuck out to me, He was on a wheel route going down the left sideline as you watch the tape, and made an incredible back shoulder type catch that you would see a receiver make. He did have one drop on an F angle route. That was the first drop I seen him make, I believe, all year. But I think because of the speed, because of his ability to play multiple positions to try to create mismatches, I think that's why I came up with that comparison.
I don't hate it. Coming out of Stanford in 2017, McCaffrey was 5'11", 202 at the combine. The comp I'm making, and it's one we've talked about before, Alvin Kamara coming out of college, out of Tennessee, was 5'10", 214. And I think you've said this before, Gibbs is not going to be probably that big, at least initially.
No.
And that'll be perhaps some of the durability concerns if there are such, if those are the things that are weighing on evaluators' minds. But he is explosive. You mentioned that the ability to obviously run the ball, but also catch the ball. And that's why I went with Kamara. And your guy, Dalvin Cook, also makes sense as well. Again, not as big as either of those players, but all three of those guys in the same basket, McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook, and then you add in Jamir Gibbs. I think you can see some of that in his game. All right, next up, running back Bijan Robinson, who is your running back one. I think he's going to be my running back one. I don't know. I love Jamir Gibbs. We'll see. But I think we do have the same comp, but you can tell me what you think, who best fits running back, Bijan Robinson running back out of Texas as a comp.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with you, and I'll let you talk on this one. Saquon Barkley, I think everybody, that's about as low-hanging fruit as you tried to pick with Gibbs and Kamara. That's to me. Yeah, but I'll give you this one. You go ahead and tell me why you think that's a good comp, because I definitely agree with you.
Here's the thing. When you see Saquon on the field, he is so thick, he doesn't look like he's 6 feet, which is what he listed at the combine. He looks like he's 5'10", probably 220, maybe 225. He's 6 feet, 233 at the combine. He may be bigger than that now. All that muscle appears to be in his thighs. And Bijan is big. Like, Bijan is also a tall running back who, I don't know if he runs as low as Saquon, but he's as close to Saquon in terms of one cut and go. He's going to run through arm tackles all day. He's an absolute attribute as a receiver, and sometimes you don't see that in bigger quotation mark running backs whose sole job, it feels like, it's just to be a battering ram between the tackles. But he can bounce it outside. He can outrun anyone to the end zone. We saw that numerous times last season at Texas. And the only concern, if you want to call it that, is that maybe his draft stock gets pushed down because of the position he plays and their needs everywhere else. But if we're making a list of the best players coming out, he's probably top 10.